We're all human. And it's important to know that doctors are people too. Doctors have emotions, they have passions in life and hobbies, and they enjoy participating as active members in the communities where they practice medicine. Doctors have families, friends, and relationships, while the latest in healthcare and the most current treatments for ailments will be topics on this Doctors Are People Too radio TV show. The focus will be in learning more about the interesting aspects in a physician's life and what they do away from the doctor's office or operating room table.
Hello, South Florida, and welcome, South Florida and beyond, and globally on the iHeartRadio app. Welcome to Doctors Are People Too. It's hard to believe because it has happened so quick, but this is our 8th show. Last week we had a nice conversation with Dr. Jorge Sosa, the medical director of bariatric surgery at Palmetto General Hospital in Hialeah, and also the medical director of weight loss surgery program at North Shore Medical Center in Miami. And today we're also traveling south to talk with Dr. Vincent Patone, a radiation oncologist and medical director of the Cancer Center at North Shore Medical Center, also in Miami. He's using non-invasive cancer treatments to help individuals fight cancer without surgery. So I've never had a radiation oncologist on the program. Really excited. And we're going to get to Dr. Vincent Patone in just a second. But first, I want to let you know a little bit about myself, so you know who's kind of, steering this ship as we talk about healthcare. And you can always call into Doctors Are People Too at 1-888-565-1470. And you can email me if you have an idea, maybe want to have your doctor on at DiPino@gmail.com. So DiPino@gmail.com. Again, my name is David DiPino. I'm a public relations and marketing specialist. I've been writing professionally since 1999. I'm a native South Floridian, actually from Jupiter. Written for the Sun Sentinel Daily and Community News Sunday editions covering mostly Delray Beach and Boca Raton, but also the Forum Publishing Group, the Boca Forum and West Boca Forum, 2 great weekly newspapers around here, the Delray and Boca newspaper, also Tribune Company, Palm Beach Post, and about 50 other publications, including Orlando Sentinel, Baltimore Sun, LA Times, and Hartford Courant. So I've spent a lot of time writing, but for the last 3 years, I've been doing PR and marketing and also writing for healthcare. So enough about me. Let's bring in Dr. Vincent Patone. Dr. Patone, are you on the phone?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me loud and clear?
Perfect. Thank you for coming on tonight. And you're a radiation oncologist, and it's correct, medical director of the Cancer Center at North Shore Medical Center in Miami. What is a radiation oncologist, and is it different than other oncologists?
Yes, actually. So a radiation oncologist is a doctor. So we have to have our medical license. So we have our MD degree. And we have spent years subspecializing in the field of radiation oncology, which is basically a sub-discipline of oncology, which is the treatment of cancer, where we only use radiation-type therapy to treat cancers, to kill cancers and whatnot. So it's different from other oncologists. It's a very technical field. We do have a lot of patient contact, but our actual treatment is a very highly sophisticated, often only done with computers. It's not a treatment where we're generally cutting people open. We have a patient usually lying on a table, and they're usually treated without any sort of contact, with the radiation beam of some sort. Now, there's many different kinds, and we can get to that, later. But ultimately, we're the only oncologists that use, radiation therapy in general to treat cancers.
And Dr. Patone, we're going to get into cancer surgery without surgery a little later, like you said, but I want to ask you, I'm sure this is a question you get all the time. What is the most common form of cancer that you see as a radiation oncologist?
Well, the most common form of cancer depends, if you're male or female. So for females, it's breast cancer. And for males, it's prostate cancer. And I think there's a lot more, much more public awareness for breast cancer than there is for prostate cancer. Then after that, we then have lung cancer, which is extremely common, colorectal tumors, uterine cancers, various gynecological tumors. So, and then you have various things like lymphomas as you go down the list. But the most common being breast, prostate, and lung, being the big three.
And how many different? How many different ways are there to treat cancer? Meaning, like, obviously you specialize in a certain type of treatment, but is surgery is one. But what are the different types to treat cancer that are out there?
There are a multitude of different types of treatments, and in general, most cancers that I've seen are treated usually with a combination of more than one modality. So one of the big modalities would be, of course, surgery, where you cut around the tumor and remove it. Another big one would be, of course, radiation. You kind of think of it in a surgical sense, where you kind of target the area that you want to treat, and that's the area that's going to be treated. And then there's chemotherapy, which is sort of can be a medicine that's injected into the veins, or it can be taken as an oral pill. There starts to be other types of therapies like molecular therapy, where these are more newer things, where we've created specific targeted type medications, whether they be oral or injected, which then go and seek and destroy tumor cells. And there's also esoteric stuff that there's holistic medicine, natural medicine. There's a multitude of things that can be done to treat cancer. But very commonly, most patients end up receiving more than one modality as they go through the course of their illness. Basically.
And I'm sure this is another question that you get a lot, and I've heard it answered a few different ways, but why do we get cancer as human beings? And I guess also we see it in our pets and animals, but why in human beings do we develop cancers?
This is a very good question, actually. I think most of my patients ask me this question. Oftentimes the family members ask this, why me, or why them? Cancer is basically a genetic phenomenon. In other words, something has happened to the DNA within that cell. Let's just call it the bad cell. And, it's part of their body, part of the patient's body. It's who they are to them. But that cell has now inherited a mutation or has created a mutation that now makes it kind of grow out of control. Okay? Now, some people are predisposed to these mutations, meaning that they have what's called genetic predisposition. In other words, they inherit something from their parents, which make those genes more likely to mutate down the road. Or sometimes it can just happen randomly. Just you're going through your life and you're just doing everything you normally do, and there's nothing you do different, and you just get that random luck chance that one of your little cells has a DNA mutation, which eventually causes cancer. And of course, there's another way to do it, which is you get exposed to carcinogens in your environment. So the biggest example would, of course, be cigarettes and alcohol, but cigarettes particularly. Cigarettes are responsible for 50% of all cancer deaths directly. And it's known as an extreme carcinogen in the sense that you, when exposed to cigarettes, especially the more often you're exposed to cigarettes, you're much more likely to have mutations which lead to cancer. So ultimately, many patients need to understand it's your own body cells. It's not something that's different from you. The cancer is you, just growing much faster and out of control. And that's the difficulty with treating cancer, because you're really trying to treat something that's a part of your own body. It's not like you're treating an infection, which is a foreign element. But in this case, it's actually your own body, and you got to figure out, or either with surgery or radiotherapy or chemo or molecular agents or immunotherapy, you have to figure out a way to try to eliminate every last bad cell or every last cancer cell to completely cure you of cancer.
Now, that's an awesome answer, Dr. Batone, and I hope the listeners realize, how lucky they are to have a doctor on to explain cancer like that. Is great info. And I just want to mention a little bit something that I just picked up on before we go into where you're at and the great work you do. Dr. Batone, have you been told before you have a great radio voice? I'm about to tell my producer, Freddie, that we got to get you a show.
That was the first time I hear that, to be honest. Excellent.
Okay.
I'll have to replay it and hear it then.
Yeah, you do. You really do. And hey, I didn't know I had a good radio voice, but apparently I do, and that's why I'm here. But that's how it works sometime. Now, we got about 3 minutes until our break here in the middle, and then we'll come back. But I want you to tell the listeners where you're at. I mean, meaning what kind of program you have there at North Shore Medical Center, where it's located, and the number. I have the number here as well.
Sure. So I'm the medical director at North Shore Medical Center. We're located just off I-95 and 95th Street in Miami. So kind of pretty centrally located. And we're attached to North Shore Medical Center as well. So we have an entire state-of-the-art radiation therapy facility with 2 bunkers, including one of the most latest technologies available called the Varian Edge stereotactic radiosurgery system and the Edge stereotactic body radiotherapy system. That is something that we're bringing new to the community out of Miami. I think we're one of the first centers in the entire Dade County with this new technology. In fact, I think we're the only hospital in Dade County that has this technology. In addition to our standard technology that we've had for quite some time now, we do brachytherapy, mammocyte HDR radiation therapy for breast cancer in 5 days instead of the typical 5 weeks. We have, of course, a full attached site that can offer chemotherapy for patients that need chemotherapy. So a full hospital ward for oncology and cancer therapy, in addition to the standard, full hospital, which has full, access to everything, pretty much. The phone number, I guess, for further questions is 305-835-6173. That's 305-835-6173 for the Cancer Center itself. If anybody has any questions, particularly radiotherapy questions.
And on the other side, we're going to take a short break here, but on the other side, we're going to talk about how Dr. Patone uses the Edge radiosurgery to treat, cancer without surgery. Again, it's northshoremedical.com/edge. We'll be right back on the other side with Doctors Are People Too.
All right. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Dr. Rahul Agarwal. I'm an interventional cardiologist in Jupiter, Florida. I did my medical school at the University of Florida and my internship and residency at the same program. I did my chief residency also at Shands, and then did my cardiology and interventional cardiology at Wake Forest University in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. I specialize in general cardiology, interventional cardiology, and nuclear cardiology. Even though I'm an interventional cardiologist, the majority of my practice involves general cardiology. General cardiology is a pretty broad spectrum in that it involves rhythm problems such as atrial fibrillation, heart disease such as coronary artery disease, congenital heart disease, high blood pressure, and cholesterol problems. I do procedures such as cardioversions, which involve trying to convert the patient back to a normal rhythm if they have an arrhythmia. I also deal with plumbing problems such as the coronary arteries, which if they're blocked, I can do angioplasty and stents, which involves balloons that open up the arteries. And these stents act as scaffolds that keep these arteries open. I really do believe in preventive medicine, and one of the areas that I really focus on is diet. One can really get caught up on the pills aspect and the exercise. And diet we talk about a lot, but unless one really has some guidance as to where to go with diet, it can be quite difficult. So I do give my patients homework in terms of books or movies that they can rent or obtain so that they can get educated. Our cardiology office is located in the Abacoa area of Jupiter, Florida, conveniently located between 2 of the local hospitals. We provide echocardiography, stress testing, ultramonitoring, and general cardiology office visits. We really pride our practice in its staff, who are very courteous and professional. We believe that under our care, you'll feel the same way too.
I was born in Italy. I was born in Sicily. Buongiorno. I've been traveling for years and years and years. And as I like to say, and I've said this repeatedly, I collect countries like people collect stamps. So I've been to over 100 countries. And as I said, that's my passion in photography. And they go hand in hand because I can't travel without a camera. I was having dinner with some friends, and I fainted, and that was the beginning of everything. It was a matter of my heart. My heart was so weak. I was almost dead, so the question became, am I ready to die at this moment? Initially, I had a defibrillator that had 2 wires. And what was happening was that one chamber of my heart was just flopping around. So Dr. Wiseman came up with the idea of implanting a defibrillator with 3 wires so that the 2 chambers would work in unison. Dr. Wiseman recommended Dr. Habib, who he said deals with these matters. He said that my face was gray, my lips were purple, and he knew that I was getting ready to die. He knew that the only options for me was either go through the LVAD procedure or go to a hospice. So essentially, I have an artificial pump inside of me. There's a cable that comes out of my midriff that's connected to this system controller, which is like a little computer. And I have to either be on batteries all the time, or I have to be connected to a power module, which is connected to the wall. And now I'm still alive because of the LVAD surgery. I want to try traveling again, taking photographs again. I would like to get back to Italy, of course, because I feel very comfortable in Italy. I have relatives there. And then I love Italy because Italy is like a piece of art. Thank you for my life. Grazie, grazie tanto. Thank you very much.
Our first guest on Doctors Are People 2 8 weeks ago. Hard to believe. And then you heard a story, testimonial by Arthur Ruffino, who Dr. David Wiseman, a cardiac electrophysiologist, electrician of the heart, helped save his life. And also Dr. Bethay implanted the first LVAD, left ventricular assist device, in Palm Beach County, and Mr. Ruffino saved his life. And then Mr. Ruffino was talking about Italy there, and we're going right back to Dr. Vincent Batone, who I talked to early on the phone today. And Dr. Batone, I'm Sicilian, but you were telling me that your family's from Italy as well, correct?
That's correct. Yeah, my grandparents, my grandmother and grandfather are from Abruzzo, so we're Paisan. That means we're from the same area, I guess.
That's awesome. Yeah, I knew I had a connection with you when we talked on the phone earlier. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Let's talk about, we have about 10 more minutes, so let's get right into, I first noticed the Edge radio surgery. I think I was driving to a Miami Marlins game, and I think I saw the billboard on I-95 for Edge radio surgery, and I went home actually later that night and looked it up because I was, I'm in healthcare. I'd like to know, what the Edge is. So tell me a little bit more about the Edge and how you use it, to treat cancer without surgery, and what kind of cancers you're treating with that device.
Sure. So just a quick background. So radio surgery is actually not a new idea. Way back in the late 70s, they came up with what's called a gamma knife. That was the first radio surgery device used for brain lesions, and that was done with by a neurosurgeon and a radiation oncologist working together. And then over the years, people came up with more easier ways of doing this, and other ways such as the cyber knife, which came out in the 1990s. And then there were other devices. And basically, the Varian Edge radio surgery system is one of the newest, latest advances in radio surgery. So this one just only came out in 2015, so basically a year ago. So it's using the absolute latest in technology, and it's one of the most precise forms of radio surgery, basically, that currently exists worldwide. And they call it the Edge for a reason. So you can imagine a surgical edge. When you make a cut, you make an edge, and so that's what you can that's what you can do with the dose of radiation in a patient's body with this device. So basically, let's go to something easy to understand. Let's look at a lung cancer. So let's say somebody has an early lung cancer. They have a little nodule in their chest, and they have a biopsy done. and they find out that they have lung cancer and there's no cancer in any other part of their body, well, traditionally, they could go ahead and have half of their lung removed. They could end up, potentially being on home oxygen. They have to, of course, be, in the operating room. They have to be cut open. They have to have oftentimes ribs spread apart. And it's a big deal. And, you're going to be in the hospital for a while after. And then, of course, you're missing all that lung function because that portion of the lung is gone. Okay, and that's all to remove one tiny lung nodule. Well, now we have the option using this radiosurgery device, the Edge, to be able to do that without touching the patient. They just come in, we do a scan, and then they come in for 5 individual treatments where we give a very high dose of radiation to a very precise target. In this case, it would be the lung tumor. It doesn't matter if it's moving up or down. We account for all of that, all of the motion of the tumor. And that is done in our cancer center with pretty much minimal side effects compared to what they would be going through had they had surgery. I mean, most patients that we've done so far since we launched the program in November of 2015, they pretty much walk out of there and say they didn't feel a thing. That's what the majority have said so far. And so it really works great for people who have lung lesions, small brain lesions. There could be lesions in the pancreas, lesions in the liver as well. It works well for small tumors. Okay, so I mean, some people are going to run around, talking about this working for large tumors. This is not designed for that. This is much more of a very precise form of radiation for small, identifiable tumors. Okay, and it's basically the most advanced form of it with the most exquisite precision. We're talking. I think it's less than a millimeter, so we're talking about like a 32nd of an inch, like less than a. We were talking a very, 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 very accurate level of precision here. So the main advantage is, of course, being that the patient does not need to undergo surgery, which is pretty huge. A lot of these patients are elderly; they have a lot of other conditions, COPD, difficulty breathing, heart conditions. All that is really doesn't really matter with the Edge radiosurgery system, since we're not going to be operating on them. So this is really the major advantage for these patients. And the beautiful thing is, looking at like lung cancer, for example, those stage 1 lung tumors have this equivalent survival rate, like 90% control rate for a stage 1 lung lesion using the Edge radiosurgery system, without all those other side effects associated with the surgery. So I hope that helps explain a little bit about how the Varian Edge works. In terms of the actual technology involved, it's the accumulation of decades of advancements in linear accelerator technology. The traditional radiation therapy has always been done with linear accelerators. Basically, it's an X-ray machine at high energy. And over the years, they've gotten more and more advanced. And then we started using things called multi-leaf collimators. They, at the beginning, were very imprecise, large, cumbersome objects. Now they're extremely precise, tiny little leaves, which we can then use to shape and mold our treatment to an exact 3-dimensional, target that I would, draw on the patient's images. And so it has really come a long way. And we're at the end of decades of advancements, and that's basically how it works. We're taking a linear accelerator and using a precise multi-leaf collimator to deliver this sub-millimeter accuracy. Okay,
Dr. Bertone, that was a great explanation. Really great job there explaining to the listeners. Now, I know you're doing very well in Miami-Dade. Obviously, that's where your hospital is. Are you seeing patients from other counties? And part B of the question is, how does someone see you? Are they referred to you? Because, I mean, you're doing some I hate, cutting edge stuff. I know we use that term a lot.
Yeah, no, so in general, we're a tertiary consultant. In other words, patients usually have to come to us after they've seen other doctors because they have been biopsied before, So prostate cancer will come see us because they have a urologist who has already biopsied their prostate, or a breast surgeon has already biopsied their breast tumor, or a lung. If in the case of a lung cancer, an interventional radiologist or a pulmonologist have biopsy that lung tumor, and then they send the patient, to us as one of the potential treating physicians. And I personally like the concept of what's called multidisciplinary treatment. In other words, more than one specialist, ideally a surgeon, like a surgical oncologist, a radiation oncologist like myself, a medical oncologist, can all see the patient so that we can make a decision as to how best to treat this patient with their specific stage of disease. Because ultimately, you want to combine forces and combine your knowledge to figure out what would be the best for a particular patient. Now, if a patient's in Dade, they can actually be treated from anywhere. So if anybody wants to be seen, at our facility here by myself or one of my colleagues, they can call up our number at the 305-835-6173 number for further questions, and we can maybe direct them as to whether or not they'd be a candidate for the Edge radio surgery device, or maybe they need to have further. Maybe we need to see them for further workup before we can make that decision.
Dr. Batone, great job. We're kind of running out of time. I want to have you on again in the future. It's northshoremedical.com/edge, EDGE. Thank you very much. Thank you, doctor.
All right. Thank you. Take care then. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening and watching Doctors Are People Too with David DiPino. Join us next week for more in-depth views on what doctors are all about and how they spend their free time. All shows can be seen on amp2.tv. And if you have questions you want answered on the air, call 866-224-5422 and leave a message that can be read on the air. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this